Yeah. I know my hair is crazy and blue, and if you watch my other video that I posted today, I explain exactly why that is, but we're gonna have to get over the blue hair for a second, because I do have something serious I want to talk about. And, I wasn't planning on doing this video when I decided to to make my hair crazy blue today, but we're gonna have to manage it because this is on my mind, and I know I won't be able to get it off my mind until I express it to all of you. So earlier today, one of my friends joined okay, listen, back up. There are a lot of groups on Facebook right now dedicated to exposing racism and going after people's jobs. I swear, I have spent the last couple hours exploring these groups. You can see here that I really kind of went back and forth because I've been pretty open in my profile on Facebook about who I am and what I think, and so I was like, do I really want to go through the energy of creating a fake Facebook profile to be able to join some of these groups? Let's just look at the titles. Expose your local racist. Racism exposed. Exposing racists to their employers. There are even local groups, so you can see we have exposing racism in MA, exposing racism in the Pacific Northwest, expose all racists. It goes on and on and on. There are tons of these groups that are getting hundreds of posts a day of people who are spying on people on the internet and posting about it in these groups so that you have evidence to go after their employers and after anything else that they might consider valuable to defeat the racists, as though that's what's going to defeat racism. And I thought, am I really motivated to create a fake account to go join one of these groups and see what's what? And at first I wasn't. I was like, that's like a lot of work, man. But then ultimately, yes. Yeah, of course, I did exactly that. And I did actually join a couple of these groups, and I was all ready to go total Robin DiAngelo on these groups. And that's what I was expecting to find. I was expecting to find things that you would read in White Fragility, quite frankly. And there was a lot of that. Don't get me wrong, there was a fair bit of it, but I have to tell you, there was also a lot of stuff that was real racism. Real racism that made me, really sad and really, and it's not as though I don't understand that these things exist. I think we all understand that these things exist, but I think that I, and probably many of you, are surrounded with a lot of nonsense racism every single day. Now, what do I mean when I say nonsense racism? What I mean is things that are racist based on the redefined term racism. Not racist based on the term, how the term is defined that I grew up with, which is one group of people thinking that they are superior to another group of people because of the color of their skin. Not racist in that sense, but when I'm saying nonsense racism, I'm talking about the power plus prejudice thing, where everything that every white person does in the history of white people is racist, and all white people are racist, and the only way that they can never overcome their racism, but they can manage it by sitting in their discomfort and giving Robin DiAngelo a lot of money to tell them that they're racist in these workshops. That's the type of racism I thought I was going to find, and I didn't. There was a lot of real racism. And it was really, and again, I think I knew that these things existed, but it's just so far removed from my experience because again, I look at a lot of the nonsense stuff every single day. And so then to see post after post after post after post of legitimately very, very horrible things, I gotta tell you, it really did make me want to go after the people posting those things. It really did. And I don't think people should be doing this. I don't think that people should be gathering evidence to go after someone's job. I really don't. I think if people go into work and they treat their colleagues with respect and they do their jobs and they don't create any problems and they're a good team member, I think that's all that should be required to keep a job. But I'm going to be honest, when I was looking through some of these posts, I would not have felt sorry for these people if they had lost their jobs. I wouldn't have. They're posting crazy, really, and I'm not going to show them to you in this video because frankly I don't want my channel to get banned, but you can go join some of these groups yourself and look and see for yourself what there is. And what pisses me off most about this whole thing is that we can't have these conversations. We cannot have real conversations about real racism that I think almost everyone would agree on. Listen, when George Floyd was murdered, everyone agreed on that. Everyone agreed that it was tragedy. Everyone agreed that those officers should be punished. Everyone agreed they should go to prison. Everyone was in complete alignment that that was a horrible tragedy that should not have happened under any circumstances. And then it ballooned into nonsense territory where now we still, to this day, have protests going on every single day that have nothing to do with George Floyd. Nothing to do with him at all. That are about opportunists trying to take advantage to gain more power. That's what it is right now. And the conversation that we could have had about real racism, thrown out the window. Lost opportunity. And I see the same thing in these groups because there are real conversations to be had here. That we are not, listen, for as much progress as I believe the United States has made, we're not all there. I think we can all agree on that. I think that's something that we can all come together on. We're not 100% of the way there. We'll probably never be 100% of the way there. We are a constant work in progress, a constant evolution. But you know what prevents us from having real conversation about real racism and real changes that could be made that would actually go towards creating a more fair and just and equal society? Nonsense like this. Nonsense like this, Paul Krugman. Reality is coming from white supremacists driving golf carts. COVID-19 surge begins reaching older, more vulnerable Floridians. Like, what in the hell was he even thinking? This is not a rational conversation. This is not going to lead to any progress or any change. What about this? Trump's Mount Rushmore fireworks plan draws criticism from Native Americans, and the reason I pulled this article up is because they're actually talking about Mount Rushmore. Mount effing Rushmore being a symbol of racism. Mount Rushmore is a symbol of white supremacy, of structural racism that's still alive and well in society today, says Nick Telson, a member of the I'm gonna butcher this, Oglala Lakota tribe, and the president of the local activist organization called NDN Collective. It's an injustice to actively steal indigenous people's lands, then carve the white faces of the conquerors who committed the genocide. Well, some activists, like this guy, want to see it removed. This guy wants to see Mount Rushmore removed. Okay. How about this one? Outrage. Outrage as activists and journalists say the Star-Spangled Banner should... Oh my god, what is with the ads, Daily Mail? Jesus Christ. Outrage as activists and journalists say the Star-Spangled Banner should no longer be the national anthem because it was written by a slave owner, Francis Scott Key, and suggest John Lennon's Imagine as a replacement. That's nonsense. That's nonsense right there. How about this one? I tweeted this yesterday, I think. Elizabeth Warren calls for renaming all bases named for Confederate generals. Those who complain that removing the names of traitors from those bases ignores history ought to learn some history themselves. Here's my issue with this. I'd actually be in favor of renaming those bases. I would absolutely 100% be in favor of it. However, how long has Elizabeth Warren been in the Senate? How long has she been there? It's been a minute. She's been in the Senate a while. Why is she only just proposing this now? It's not as though those bases are new. They've always been named for the Confederate generals. Listen, I worked at a military school. My first job out of college was as an admissions counselor at Norwich University in Vermont, which was right near my house, and that was my entry into higher education. I worked in higher education for 10 years as literally one of those admissions people. And, you know, here's the thing. We had open houses, and the vice president of enrollment would always get up at the open house. She'd make the same speech every damn time. She'd get up and say, and one of our graduates was in the cabinet under Jefferson Davis. And what she was banking on, I promise you, what she was banking on was the fact that people wouldn't know that Jefferson Davis was not the president of the United States. Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederacy. A literal traitor. She was touting the benefit of this school because an alumni way back in the day was in the cabinet of a literal traitor, making him a traitor himself. And I always thought that was dumb. I said I worked at a military school back in the day that bragged one of its graduates was in the cabinet of Jefferson Davis, and I always thought it was dumb. Why would you brag about that? That made him a traitor, not someone to admire. Never made sense to me. I would be completely in favor of renaming the bases after the Confederate generals. I think that makes a ton of sense. But we can't have this conversation. We can't have a conversation about it. Why? Because Elizabeth Warren doesn't actually care about this. She doesn't care about this. She is being an opportunist to score virtue points. That's all it is. If she actually cared about it, she would have done it years ago. She's been in the Senate for a long time. She would have done it years ago. And this is where we're at. This is where we're at, that we honestly cannot have these conversations. We cannot have conversations about real injustice, about real racism, about real inequities, because we're constantly battling the nonsense. And you have people on both sides that are constantly digging their heels in and trying to score points, trying to own the other side. You know, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty too. I'm going to do a mea culpa, because I started down this road genuinely wanting to bridge the divide and be a part of bridging that divide that's taken place in this country. And in the process of that, I've absolutely gotten sucked in to all of the craziness, because I just can't handle this. Like, it feels as though half of our country has actually gone insane, actually lost their mind, and I don't know how we can bridge the divide until we can start having real conversations about real problems without focusing on scoring virtue points. And until one side stops being more interested in virtue points than it is in solving real problems, I don't see any bridging it. I just don't, because right now you have the left who has lost their mind and is more interested in virtue than in making actual change and solving actual problems, in having conversations with everyone to make things better. You've got the left acting crazy, and you have the right who is so afraid of what the left is doing that they dig in their heels and they don't give an inch. They don't give an inch because they can't, because the minute they give an inch, and now I've seen this over and over and over again, the minute that they give an inch, the left wants a mile. And then you give them that mile and they take 2 miles. Then you give them that 2 miles, they take 4 miles. And it just keeps going and going and going until we descend into craziness. And it hurts people on both sides. There are people that are legitimately being hurt by some of the things I saw in those groups today. That is very, very real and valid, and real conversations we should be having. And then you have people on the right. I get notes like this all the time. All the time. Let me just share it with you. I'm an openly gay Hispanic who grew up a Democrat. I voted for Obama, Kerry, Hillary. But for the past 4 years, I have lived in perpetual fear as a closeted Trump supporter in the Seattle area. I have a boyfriend who is a lifelong Democrat and supported Bernie in 2016. I even encouraged him to caucus for him. Living in the Seattle area, I feel isolated and frustrated, as everyone I know, work with, spend time with, and am friends with reserves a small portion of their day to trigger themselves to make sure they feel some sense of rage towards Trump or Trump-related things. There's a measure of despair in feeling the whole world is insane and abandoning common sense, simple logic, and debate. Every day I feel I can't share my opinions, my beliefs, my reasoning, my condemnations, or even my joy with those around me in my everyday life without fear of persecution, losing friends, even losing my job. Thank you for giving me hope that sanity will not be snuffed out. I wish I could give this person more hope. I wish I could give a lot of people more hope. I wish many people, it doesn't, not just me, but like everyone, I wish there was more hope to be had. And I think there is hope. I think that, listen, people like me and people that are in those groups and people like you probably, because you're watching this video, we've got our heads in this stuff all day, every day. And it's easy to forget that there are a lot of normal people out there that just sit in the middle and they don't care about it either way. But it really does feel every single day like we're descending more and more and more into a place we won't be able to come back from. I don't know how to change it. I really don't. And I'm going to be honest, and admittedly I might be biased, but I see more trouble with the left on this than I do with the right because, I just got into, I have my civil discussion group on Facebook, and honestly, I don't even participate really much in that group just because I don't have time. I do keep an eye on it, I do look at it, but every once in a while I get dragged into things, and 90% of the time when I get dragged into something, it is because someone on the left is demanding that everyone in the damn group see things their way. They're not trying to have conversations. They want to convince people to be like them. Every single time I get dragged into something in that group, that's what it's about. It's about someone on the left throwing a hissy fit and, having a tear at people that they don't agree with. I don't know how to fix it. I've tried creating places for dialogue, and, Lord knows they're still new and they're still growing and we're still learning from it. But I look at people like this gentleman, people like me who think that the left has gone off a cliff, people like even the conservatives that I interact with. I did an interview with CPAC yesterday, and nicest people in the world. And they don't care that I'm not a conservative. They don't care. They just want people with an open mind. They just want to have those open conversations. But the left cares. The left cares that everyone thinks like them. And until there is some give in this ideology that has taken over, I don't know what to do. I don't know. If you have thoughts, leave them in the comments below, because I'm at a loss. There are real problems in this country to manage, but when we're constantly dealing in nonsense, when we're dealing in things that are coming from this social justice, non-theistic religion, ideology, cult, whatever you want to call it, when we're constantly dealing with those things, we can't have those conversations. We can't make things better. We can't evolve, and we're stuck. And I don't know how to unstick us. But I'm not the smartest person in the world, and Lord knows, and maybe the hope that I have is that there are a lot of people out there with a lot of creative ideas. The mental energy that I have for this right now is just, it's diminishing by the day. I started doing the work that I do because I really do genuinely care about people, and I want people to be happy, and I want to give people the tools to live a more empowered life and to be able to really take control of their lives and their experiences. And I believe that's possible, but when we live in this world that glorifies a victim mentality, the more victim you are, the more virtuous you are. I just don't know how to get there. And it's just built into everything. It seems impossible, doesn't it? Like, it's built into schools from the moment these kids go to school. And we ignored it for a really long time, and this is what's happening. I've said to people on the right an awful lot that if you want Trump to get reelected, you need to start fighting back. And I do mean that. I think that if Trump loses, it will be because people on the right assumed that it was a sure thing. But Trump getting elected president is actually, that's a temporary thing, right? This is much bigger picture. What's going on right now? What people that are doing this nonsense stuff or this nonsense stuff, they're actually changing the fabric of the country. This is a much bigger long-term problem. And if you don't start fighting back in some way, if we don't start turning things around, I don't know how far, and there are people who've been studying this stuff a lot longer than I have, but I don't know how far towards the cliff we can go until it's just inevitable that we are going to fall off. You know what it feels like? It almost feels like we're on a teeter-totter on the edge of a cliff, and maybe we started out here with social justice up here, and things were pretty stable, and then they just keep adding more rocks to it, and the teeter-totter keeps going until all of a sudden you're almost falling off the cliff, and at some point you can't move the teeter-totter back. And I don't even want the teeter-totter to be like this. I gotta be fine with it being like this. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Maybe some of you have some ideas.